everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
Well, we didn't really have like a holiday break follow-up conversation,
No,
Melissa.
I know we didn't.
That's like, I wanted to tell you about my break, my almost 2-week break from work. Because I gave everybody the week between Christmas and New Year's off.
Right.
So we're just like the company, we just straight up closed the company that week.
Yep.
And then I think there's whatever. A couple of days before that, I didn't really work. A couple of days after that, I didn't really work. So I was kind of off for 2 weeks.
That's what I usually do every year.
Well, I usually don't.
I know. I know. What'd you think?
Well, actually, it's weird because, I don't know, after the first 5 days, I kind of was sitting there. I was like, oh, wait a second. I haven't dove into any work projects. Usually I take this time to either kind of learn something new or deep dive on some particular tech that I want to know or some project I want to get done that's really focused solo work that I just take the opportunity to not be interrupted so I can do that work.
Yeah.
But I didn't do any of that kind of work.
Huh. You know what I usually do? I just realized this. This is an interesting conversation because I wonder how many people are aligning with this. I feel like Christmas break, when people take Christmas breaks or vacations, the first few days are frenetic because it's not Christmas yet. It's the day before Christmas or whatever. So everybody's just racing to the finish line, making sure all their last minute stuff is done. And then you have your Christmas, and then whatever your Christmas looks like, it's either 1, 2, or 25 celebrations in a row, and everybody's absolutely exhausted by the end of it, right? And then you have this teeny little reprieve between Christmas and New Year's, if you have New Year's plans. My New Year's plans were incredibly intense. I was in bed at 9 p.m.
Nice.
But then the back part of it, or the last few days, or the last day or two, or whatever that looks like, that's what I usually do too. I usually jump into some kind of new learning, or I settle in to something that I've been looking forward to settling into. And I think it's funny, we have never talked about this before. I never knew you did that either.
Well, usually I would just kind of work through that whole time. This year was a little different because we didn't go and, we didn't do anything for Christmas.
Yeah.
Or we didn't do anything for New Year's. We just had literally no plans.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was good in that way. But my self-awareness.
Oh, air quotes.
my learning about, and this is going to be absolutely no surprise to you or anyone else. It's not like I took that time and just sat around. It's not like I was oh, I'm not working, so then I'll just sit here and read a book or or do, I don't know. I don't even know what I would do to sit around. That's probably, we can have an episode on that. Why JJ can't sit. So what I did instead is day one, I took absolutely everything out of every single kitchen cabinet.
Oh, no.
In a giant pile. And then I put back only the things that we actually use.
So there were 8 things in the cupboards when you were done.
It's glorious. It's awesome. It looks like I open
something
the cabinet,
out of
I'm oh, look it. There's hardly anything in there. It's it looks bare.
Look, it's
awesome.
a commercial. It's a commercial for apartment living.
Exactly.
You know what this is? This is your veiled effort of getting rid of the Dr. Seuss dirty dish stack. No matter what, you're on your way. You're going to do it no matter what.
If we have no dishes, we can't stack
Exactly.
them up.
You're going to get there one way or the other.
So the reflection was like, even if I'm not doing quote like work, like I am
Mhm.
still
Yes.
doing very high productivity things. I was just like, I can't stop. I
Do
was like, I mean, I was a little obsessed, I would say. I was
yeah.
obsessed the whole week, and it didn't stop at the kitchen. I like methodically went through like our entire house.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I was totally with you on the kitchen part because 'cause we've got a whole wall that's just a bar,
Mm,
like one side of one area is like a breakfast nook bar,
mhm.
whatever, alcohol, all the things, and it's got like multiple cupboards in it and a sink and all that. So there I was on my knees whipping stuff out. And well, of course Mitch is gone because he refuses to let me get rid of anything.
Ah,
So I wait till
there
he's
we
gone.
are.
I
Yep.
wait till he's gone, and I had everything piled on the table in a box, and then I heard him come home, and I thought, "Damn it." So
So
in he walks.
this is a funny thing that you and I have in common. We 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 clean secretly without our spouses. Like we're
It is
trying to get
weird.
away with something.
It is weird. It is weird. So he's standing over this box, and I'm like, "Damn it." And he's like, "What is all this stuff?" And I was like, "Never mind, I'm getting rid of it." "Well, what is it?" "It's none of your beeswax." I said,
What
"Well, what's
is it?
this thing?" And he starts pulling stuff out. So then I start shouting, and then he skulks away. He may or may not have had something tucked under his arm as he did so.
Well, so I think that as I was cleaning stuff out, I was trying to think about like why do some people have trouble throwing things out or donating or just getting rid of things? Why do people hang on to some things?
Yes,
And like maybe why do I sometimes hang on to things, but also find quite a bit
obsessively
of
throw
joy
things.
in getting things away?
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting to think about, and we've talked about this before. I think in like a variety of different ways, including the way you and I deal with our closets. But like your thing
Uh,
with Mitch, it's just like what drives him to want to keep some of that stuff?
oh, have you ever been in our garage? Yes, you have been in our garage. Oh my goodness.
Well, because you might need it, right? What is it? Like, just define it. Like, he might need it someday,
Yeah, 100 pair of
right?
antlers. Yeah, for sure he's gonna. You're
Those
right,
are
I never
emotional
thought of it.
attachments, I guess, right? Emotionally attached to the antlers.
I am allowed one top of one cupboard in the entire three-stall garage. I mean, he holds on to everything. It is a very different style.
Mhm.
I don't like holding on to next to anything. I may have one closet where I keep like quote stuff,
Yeah.
craft stuff or whatever,
Mhm.
work stuff. That's it. That's it.
So
And I have very logical reasons for
for
why I keep them.
keeping it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think you do have a relationship with stuff though. Obviously we're kind of being kitschy about this, but there's a broad band of reasons why people hang on to things.
Yeah, and it's stuff like we talked about our closets,
Yeah.
cupboards,
Mhm.
garage. The other thing that actually I try to be really good at, but I see actually a lot of my friends do this. They
Mm.
actually um kind of hoard like digital things. Like in our current modern society,
Oh,
like I have
interesting.
friends that have like hundreds of thousands of pictures. They won't
Oh.
delete pictures, like digital pictures off their computer or files or things like that. And I'm like, you have hard drives full of pictures. When are you ever going to see these pictures?
So I might have to stay out of this part of the
Oh,
conversation.
good. We found one. We're digging around and now we found one spot where you're hoarding stuff.
Oh, okay. And just for full disclosure, I'm going to tell you. Oh, no. Do you know how many pictures I have on my
Mm,
phone?
let's hear it.
Oh, I don't even want to tell you. I'm
Is it over
embarrassed.
50,000?
It's
Oh,
33,800.
that's a good number of pictures. In one day. And what does it take? Like a couple seconds to look and appreciate a picture. And so that's like 3 years of you just looking at your pictures. Well, I don't think we realize like there's some things that in our lives that we do hang on to
Yeah,
and don't even think about it. Like your
like
pictures,
that.
like your pictures on your phone.
Like that.
It's so easy to take them and there's no reason to delete them really.
Right, unless you just keep paying more iCloud storage.
Yeah,
That's all.
exactly. Apple
Yeah.
is thanking you for your digital hoarding. Or emails too, right? Actually, that's one probably
Oh,
spot where
yeah.
like
That's true.
my
That's a great
email
one.
address, my work email address I've had, since whatever, 1996. And I don't ever delete any email out of there. I just archive it. Because it actually, in one way, it's helpful because I can go back and search it and find
Wow.
like really old stuff.
You have
But
emails from
mhm,
1997 in your
I have every email ever sent out of that account to or out
what?
of that account. Yeah, it's crazy.
But
It's
I
huge.
also know that you keep 0 balance in your inbox. You
Yeah.
have 0.
So I get my inbox to nothing, but I've archived them all. But,
Ah,
like really, all those super old emails don't have hardly any value
oh my
anymore.
gosh. You could go back and find the emails where you and I were discussing meeting at Starbucks for
I'm
the
sure
first
I
time.
have those. Yeah. Reminisce.
Oh my
Well, so
gosh.
the question is, as I was kind of like for me, when I'm going through stuff, I'm thinking like let's get into like some of those things. Like, will I need this in the future?
Yeah,
Do I have like an emotional attachment to it? Is there like sentimental value? Is there utility to it?
right.
Um, and it starts to make me think about like what drives me or anyone else to like hang on to something or
Right.
decide to get rid of something.
Right. I there's I don't know. I have ideas. I have ideas because my mother is a collector of junk.
Mm,
Like, I would say bordering on hoarder. She really, really is. So I had a very interesting conversation with her doctor, sidelong, not intentional conversation about this.
mm,
And I think there is, I think there's a continuum of starting with not wanting to save anything,
hmm
like always don't want to let any moss grow on your rolling stone kind of thing,
hmm
all the way to I must save everything for
hmm
security. And I think that both options offer people, both sides of this offer people a certain level of security or
Yeah.
comfort.
I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm like all the way on the like complete minimalism side of that, but I know people who are kind of diehard minimalists and
Me
they will
too.
say things like, I only want enough stuff that I can get into my car so I can
Yeah.
just leave now. Like
Yes.
it's almost like freedom's not the right word, but almost like
It is
they
freedom though.
a freedom, but it's more like an
Unencumberedness.
yeah. It's more like I want to be able to get up and leave with
If I want.
if
Yeah.
I want. It's like a control thing.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And then, you've got these crazy thought leaders like Maria Kondo, the
Mhm.
Asian woman who says, if hold something in your hand and if it sparks joy,
Yeah.
keep it. Sparks joy. Good night. Well, this is very
Well,
funny.
okay, so but
Okay.
like you're saying like a scarcity thing, like a scarcity mindset or the opposite of that to the extremes
Yeah.
is kind
Yeah.
of where you
Like a
might
poverty consciousness. You're
you might
never,
not
ever going to have
feel
it
like
again.
yeah, it might be causing you to not feel quite centered, right? You're kind of pushed too far to one side.
Yeah. But actually, on that far extreme of hoarder, this is what I learned about hoarding, which was very interesting a couple years ago. Hoarding is actually a form of OCD,
Mm,
and is treated medically the same way. If it
hmm.
is something that is treated, most people, it's a secretive thing for a
Yeah.
lot of people, so they don't talk about it. But what stuff in that extreme scenario, their stuff represents safety.
Yeah. Put that on our podcast list because I was as I was methodically going through our house, I was also thinking about like, is this an obsessive compulsive thing that I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
Like,
interesting.
and
Well,
we won't go into like how things needed to be arranged in order for me to feel comfortable with putting them back.
I'm the same way. I am the same way. All the
Well,
rounds next to the rounds, all the squares next to the squares,
yeah,
all of the
exactly.
lids way in the back stacked carefully so they don't impede the clean, complete perfection of the pile. Oh,
Okay, maybe we
shoot.
don't need to talk about that. Well, so I think there's like upbringing, like your
Yes.
upbringing probably has a lot to do with how you deal with
Yep.
your stuff in your
Yes.
house today.
Yes.
Um, I was actually talking to Amber about this, and she was actually saying that her her profession actually she feels has caused
Mm.
her to hang on to things because like as a teacher, she like
Oh.
might need that next year, or she's
Mm.
currently or she taught a class on a subject, but now she's not teaching it, but she might teach that
Yep.
subject again in the future. So
Oh,
she wants to
yeah.
keep all those materials. So
Yep.
she actually has all this teaching stuff that she doesn't
Yep.
actually use anymore because she's not teaching right now, but
Which
she
has
might
all the
need
same
them.
stuff. All the same stuff.
Um, so I think there's probably some professions that lend themselves to kind of hanging on to things longer than maybe
Yeah.
you need to.
Before you go past this point,
Hmm.
I want to just mention one other thing. You start talking about your upbringing.
Hmm.
I want to just like spin this dial just a little bit because I have a really weird perspective of this that most people don't. So my mother has been married and divorced 4 times, and I moved 20 sometimes before I was in high
Hmm.
school or graduated. Okay, so I had different people in my life for different periods of time. Well, I had one bonus dad who I'm still in touch with and absolutely adore. And I was with him in my upbringing at a very specific age. It was ages 8 through like 15. Okay. Now, the reason I'm being so specific is I'm actually curious about your upbringing if there's certain developmental periods of your childhood in which you imprint certain things. And the reason I mentioned this, I've thought this for years, is that he is very much throw stuff away. Like, get rid of it, throw stuff away. And we were just texting last night. Okay? Last night. And I had recommended this book, and he had read this book, and he said, yeah, there's some interesting ideas in it. One of the ideas was to not declutter, but deaccumulate. Okay, that's the phrase. It says deaccumulate. So he said, he liked that part of the book. And I said, yeah, I just thought you might. And then he said, I just deaccumulated the roll top desk this morning. 3 cheers for Craigslist.
What?
And this is what's funny. Now, my mom likes to save everything. I don't like clutter anywhere. I keep all the counters completely clear. And if my upbringing was with her, with the exception of this little window of time, it really makes me wonder when these impact periods hit.
That's a great question. Yeah.
I know, but isn't that funny? 3 cheers for Craigslist.
I do. I find like great joy in like giving away stuff
Me
and finding
too.
and like Amber hates Craigslist because she's like, you're gonna get murdered. I'm like,
Yeah, same
no,
here. I don't use it either.
I'm not been murdered once. 100% success rate.
Oh my gosh, I'm with Amber on that one. Anyway, so upbringing, I think I wanted to just stop at that moment because I really, that's a major thing, right?
Yep.
And then profession too. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think there are certain professions where you're all in. You were talking about teachers, but I think there's also artists, anything where there's reference materials or things that you have to go back to. It's like that is, for me, a recipe for disaster to the point where I will choose a different profession.
And other big things that are just kind of obvious, like the economic conditions of when you grew up, right? I mean, we all know. I mean, it's shrinking, but like that Great Depression era generation, who's like saving baggies and doing all that stuff, where we look at like, why are you doing that? Well, they're doing that because they had to do that.
Like, do you know, my great grandmother was alive during the Depression, and whenever I'd go to her house, she loved Dairy Queen. That was her thing, Dairy Queens. She would save. She'd always get a small sundae. She would save the sundae cup. There were hundreds of
Mhm.
Sunday cups stacked on this
Yeah,
one
not
shelf.
rational, she'll never use all of them, but that's part of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
DNA, right?
you're right.
And
Yeah,
that's formed during that period of time.
right. Yeah, yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about, like, why do I have, like, a bit more attachment on some things than others?
Oh, that's a great question.
And one is sentimental, right?
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, this object was with me. Like, I mean, there are things that I, like, can't get rid of. Like, and to me, I'm rationalizing them out, but, like, my water bottle, like, I've had the same water bottle. Oh, this coffee cup? Like,
Yes,
you've seen me holding this particular coffee cup in, like,
20 years.
ever since you've known me. I take pride in, like, not losing this object,
That
but
is impressive, actually.
now that it's been with me for so long, I think I would have a very hard time getting rid of that coffee cup.
This is kind of like when you go to a garage sale. Not that I ever go to a garage sale, but I have family members that love them. You go to a garage sale and it's like, oh, look, here's a bath mat from Restoration Hardware from 1990, and
Mm.
they have it priced at $25.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's the sentimental value, not
yeah, it's
the
the
actual
sentimental value
value
that says I
to
could
them.
actually afford something at this store 25 years ago for the first time, and it's worth so much money.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um, the other thing that I didn't get to that I don't know how to deal with is we also have like thousands of physically printed photos
yeah,
in
we do.
boxes. And
Yeah,
I'm like, what
oh,
are we gonna do with these? And
I'll tell you.
Amber's like, I was like, should we get rid of these? And she's like, I don't think we should get rid of them. I'm like, when are we ever going to look through all of these photos?
Do you know what I did?
What?
I'm ahead of you just a little
Yeah,
bit here
tell
because
me.
this was one of my winter projects 5 years ago. We had those big, huge tubs.
Mm-hmm.
We had 4 tubs filled to the rim with
Yep,
photos.
that's about what we got.
So what I did was I took over a week's time. It was such a long process. Oh my God. And back in the day, whenever you would get photos, you'd get you'd get double
Mm.
prints for free at ProX, that old company. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So not only did I have a lot of photos, but I had duplicates of a lot of
Doubles.
photos. So I threw out doubles. I had a pile for me
Mm-hmm.
and then a pile for each kid.
Mm.
So I went systematically through every envelope of photos and put them in these piles. And then I had a pile of get rid ofs.
Mhm.
The get rid of pile was pretty substantial. It was 8 pictures of the same thing with only one good one.
Mm.
That kind of thing. Because that's
Yep.
what people do. They just save them. I threw out the majority of them. I had one box for each kid that they'll take with them.
Mm.
That's like of their babyhood and all the way growing up and all of those things. And then I have one similar size box for our family of historical photos, and that's it. I threw
That's good.
everything out,
Yeah.
everything else
Okay,
out.
that'll be next year's project.
Oh, it was so satisfying. But I'll tell you what, we had piles of
Mhm.
photos everywhere.
Yeah,
the
that
longest
sounds
time.
like a huge project.
By the way, I also did have a little section of where for photos to give my friends
Mhm.
from growing up with
Nice.
them. Yeah, and they loved that.
Yeah.
You know, there might have been 4 or 5 a person or something.
Yeah, I
but-
probably need to sort, and then I was gonna maybe scan mine in, add them to
Yeah.
that giant pile of digital photos I never look at. Um, yeah, some of those old things, those old artifacts that you think you should keep, like, this was my grandma's this or that. Like, actually, we have, like, my grandma's dishes in our crawl space.
Yes. Yep.
Never, ever
No
gonna
one
use
wants
those
them.
things. No one wants them, never gonna use them.
Mm-mm.
And I
Same
just
here.
but it's hard to get rid of them because
I know, because
um,
it's still sentimental for you.
yeah.
I know.
Yep.
I agree. And once it's not for you anymore, then what? Because I have my grandma's
Mhm.
silver. I have her dishes.
Yep.
I have her. I actually have one piece of furniture from her. It's a hutch.
Mm.
Okay. I am not a hutch person at all. So you know where it is? It's in the basement. It's in the
So,
basement.
yeah, not
because I
it's
can't.
because you
I
can't
haven't-
get rid of it, but you have no use for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, so that's one area. Ugh.
The other thing, the other reason I think I keep some things is because I feel like they're part of my identity.
Mm.
A great example is I have way too much art supplies, even though I
Oh,
am not like a
yeah.
even
Yeah,
though I'm
yeah.
not a professional artist, even though like my art output is fairly low nowadays.
Yeah, but
Um,
it might not be. That's one of those things. I don't
See,
know.
there you go. It
There,
might
I'm
not
like that
be.
with all of my art
See,
projects as well.
but if I just got rid of it all, and if I did want to pick it up again someday, it would be not a huge inconvenience to just go get new art supplies.
I know.
Like, but
That's a hard one
being an
though, because
artist is part of part of my own identity, like what I think of myself as.
right,
So getting rid of
right.
the things that I think of myself as is really hard.
Yeah. I I can appreciate that. Because with my art stuff, it's the same way. Like we've had previous pods where I've talked about
Hmm.
making things with velvet, making things with polar fleece,
Yeah.
uh, making
If
paper.
you got rid of all of that stuff, if you like we all have a good visualization of your art closet, even though I've never seen it in real life.
Ah, it's a big closet, really big.
But if like you snapped your fingers and poof, it was like all gone.
Yeah.
Um, it's not like if you wanted to pick up one of those hobbies again, you couldn't just go to the store and get the stuff you
Well,
need. Yeah,
yeah. It's
see?
expensive though,
Well,
too. See, it's expensive. Now I'm on a slippery slope. But
I
like
know.
beading. Okay, so I was in beading for a while, right? Making jewelry. Okay. The number of the thousands of dollars I spent on 24 karat clasps and chains and earrings and the crystal and gemstone pieces that I bought I mean there's thousands of dollars in that box. So shut up.
I'm just gonna
Just
let
shut
you
up.
keep talking yourself right into a
No, I'm
box.
gonna no, because I don't even like beading. I don't have the least interest in beading
See?
at all. None. Zero.
We all have it. I'm not judging you.
You are.
I'm just sitting here. What are you talking about?
Shoot. Okay, wait, I have another section you have not talked about yet. Are
Okay.
you done with your list of things?
Yeah, pretty more or less.
Books.
Oh yeah, books.
Books.
I did a huge book purge a few years ago.
Oh, you did?
Well, they're like little trophies that you want to put on your
Yeah.
wall and show other people how smart you are.
And we have a library in our house, so that's true. That's true. Well, certain ones, and then I've got some of them that I'm not real interested in and opening up to all conversation. I have those
Those
those in a different
hidden
part of the house. I
ones.
got that from my grandmother, I think. Anything metaphysical or spiritual, put those away.
No.
Put them away.
You can only have books about cooking and animals. That's it.
Exactly. People are going to think you're crazy, more crazy, Melissa.
Well, I think like having books out, I mean, it's a sense of pride, right? That kind of goes to the identity thing. Like, here's the
Yeah.
stuff I'm into, here's what I've read, here are even I feel like not nowadays because there's so many digital books that
Yeah.
we all consume. But like I remember when I was a kid, you go to someone's house and you kind of like look through all of the books and it was like a
Yeah.
conversation starter. You
Yeah.
could pull one out. Oh,
Exactly.
what do you think about this book? It's just it
Yeah.
was kind of a fun interaction.
Yeah, totally was. Or to find what was in the book. That's the other
Mm,
thing that I always love is because I still, being as quote, organized as I am, I'll use the craziest things for bookmarks. And
mm.
then I just leave them in there
Oh
when
yeah,
I'm done.
nice.
Right? There's weird stuff in there. Real weird stuff. Pictures, coupons, just like random sheets of paper ripped apart from something else. It's just crazy. But I have gotten pretty good actually at narrowing down the book selection as well,
Mm,
because I am a voracious reader. So are you. And sometimes I'll read something on digital, but a lot of times I don't like to anymore. I like
mhm,
to physically hold a book in my hand and touch the paper, and I just like that better. But if I don't absolutely love the book, I ask myself at the end when I finish it, I'll say, what is the likelihood that in 5 years I would read this again?
mhm.
And if it's really, really good, I'll keep it. But most of the books, I'd say
Yeah,
80% or
most books
more.
you don't need to read again. Like
No,
you got it.
no,
Yep.
totally.
I
Yeah,
have one book that I
I know
keep.
it. The the War of Art.
Yep. I've read it many times. It's out of
Well,
print.
and you have a few of those, don't you? Because I think Amber got you a
Hmm.
really cool one
She got me like
version.
one of like
Line.
the original prints from
Yeah,
back in the day. It was
that
great.
was so cool. That was like the best gift. Yeah.
All right. Well,
We haven't even talked about clothes or jewelry or
we covered
shoes.
a lot of that. Go find the cleaning out your closet episode and listen to that one if
Well,
you're
that's
interested in
right.
your
Oh
closet.
my gosh, we did that. I forgot. Maybe we're slightly obsessed in the opposite direction, perhaps just a little bit.
Perhaps. I mean, the thing is, I just would want everyone to think about is like, is the stuff you're keeping around adding value?
Yeah.
You know, for Amber, a lot of times like stuff around actually causes her anxiety, but she
Yes.
also gets
Yes.
anxiety getting rid of it. So it's like it's a really tough spot to be in because it's like
Yeah. Hmm.
um she
Yeah.
doesn't want to go through and prune stuff out, be, but she also knows that she's got too much stuff.
Well, and I agree with you. I think there is a tipping point for all of us where the amount of stuff that we have, even if it's just in one collection of something, but the amount of stuff that we have starts to make us feel,
Hmm.
almost claustrophobic.
Yeah.
It's like, or like as you were describing in your kitchen cupboard. I mean, as much as we want to joke, if you have, all these like the appliance heaven is
Hmm.
in one cupboard and you're trying to get to something in the back, every single time you need something in there,
Yeah.
you have to empty out the whole
Yeah.
thing. And it's so annoying and
Yeah.
frustrating and time consuming, and you don't want to.
Yeah. So sometimes there's like an emotional weight over
Yeah.
things, like just thinking about them always.
Yeah.
Um, sometimes there's like a financial impact, right? Like
Yes.
the other thing I like when I think about businesses, I like to sit around and think about businesses. Um, the most amazing business to me is the self-storage business. Because here
Oh
are
my
people
gosh, it's
who are
so
just
bad.
like paying money every single month to store probably stuff that they don't need. But it's
Oh,
like what a direct um reflection on how hard it is to actually get rid of things. And
you're being so much kinder about this whole industry than I feel.
y-
I agree.
yeah.
I agree. We have as a society have become collectors.
Hmm.
So much so that it isn't even enough that we fill our own houses. Now we have to like go and destroy earth to build more garages to
Hmm.
store
So there's
more
more stuff.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah.
Um,
I know there's some general usages that are very important and real. Like I'm not referring to those.
yeah. But if you look at that industry over the
Mhm.
past 20 years,
Yeah,
it's like
it's
it's a booming
exploding.
industry.
Yeah, it's
And it's
exploding.
kind of exploiting uh this human nature.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. Yeah, I
well,
agree.
so, oh man, we've been talking about this for a while. So just to real quick, like, what are some of your like tips or tricks on making sure that you're like
Yeah,
hanging on to the right amount of stuff that's
yeah,
appropriate for like your mental health?
yeah. I like for me, it has to visually look good. It
Mm,
has to look open.
mm-hmm,
I have to have it look open. That refers to cupboards, that refers to closets. It has to be organized and open, like
mm,
more open space than you would expect, even with the door closed.
mm-hmm,
Right? That's a big thing for me. I don't want to have to move a bunch of stuff around to get to the one thing that I
mm,
use all the time. So if that's the case, it's time to go.
mm-hmm.
And then also not just if I haven't used it for a couple of years,
Yeah.
and there's real hard laws about this. You always hear people talking about that. If you haven't worn something in a year,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to get rid of it. I'm a little less rigid about that, but I am fairly rigid about if I haven't been using it for a couple of years, I really do want to take a look at it and see if I still want it, because chances
Yeah.
are I've just been hanging on to it for what if instead of what is.
Yeah. That's my kind of number one uh system too, is if I didn't use it this year, I probably don't need it.
Yeah.
And you know, that goes for like my closet, my garage,
Oh, your
all that.
garage too, huh? That's impressive.
Yeah, there was a while where my garage, because I was really into woodworking for a long time.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
did
yeah.
have a lot of things that were just like not used very frequently, but it's just like that one tool, that one drill bit that does that one thing.
Yeah.
But like, I think last summer, because Ethan had a graduation party and it was and we were using our garage
I
to host
know.
it, right? It was in our
Yes,
garage.
I know. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I got to get rid of like so much stuff just to fit the graduation party in here. So it was
By the way, your garage looked like an ad in Closet Organization magazine.
Thank you.
I could have eaten a sandwich off of the floor. I could have.
And then with, like, I always like to do when I'm doing something like a bigger project, I take it pretty systematically. Like, I'm going to do like this
same.
one space and then going to move to the next space.
That's
and
what
then
I
move
do
to the next
too.
space. I don't like try to tackle an entire room. I just try to tackle this one
corner
cabinet
of it or something. Yeah, that's I think that's a really good thing for people to try if they want to try organizing themselves in a different way. You start with one little segment, and no matter what, don't bleed into the others until that one is done.
Yeah, or else it gets way too many things happening at one time, and then
you get overwhelmed and tired.
Yep.
Yeah, and you stuff everything back in and shut the door.
All right, one last story.
Yeah.
And in like a practical tip on how to get more organized.
Mm-hmm.
Amber's sewing room.
Oh, yes, I've
got a lot of stuff in it, which is her number one source of joy and anxiety.
Yes.
She would like complain about how she was so overwhelmed about like how to organize, if she didn't just know how to organize this, right? And how long ago this was like 8 years ago or something. And you and I were talking, and you go, and it was her birthday. Her birthday was coming up. I was struggling like what to get her for her birthday, and you're like, I have a friend who is a professional organizer. And I was like, what a beautiful present. Like,
I know.
Like, Amber's overwhelmed with organizing. She doesn't have the right system. I'm going to hire a person to come for an entire day and help her go through things, organize things, sort things. She'll come with bins and
boxes and shelves.
Awesome.
Just labeling.
So I was so proud of this idea for her birthday, and I gave it to her. Like,
I know, on a silver platter.
And
she handed you divorce
and
papers.
It was not well received. It was the worst birthday present I ever gave her.
I'm responsible. I feel responsible. I really thought she would love that.
So I thought that hiring someone to help you organize was a brilliant idea. But just be careful if you gift that. But that would be another idea, is that there are people who actually are really quite gifted in sorting, organizing, and making sense of things.
And lovingly helping people. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. I would say like a lot of times, like there are people, like you can see it at work all the time. I mean, there are people who are just more skilled with sorting and sifting through things than others.
Right.
And that's not a judgment thing. It's just there are. Go, if you're not the kind of person that's super good at organizing stuff, go find a friend who is and loves it, because we all know that friend that loves organizing stuff, and just have them help you.
Yes. Well said. I agree. Well, it is a great reminder to just look around. It's the beginning of the year. The first month of the year is always a great time of year to just evaluate how you want this year to go. And rather than getting into your head too much about this is great, this sucks, like just make minor steps towards things that make you feel good. And I think having your space around you more open is also a way for you to have more open thinking. Yeah,
and not to Marie Kondo everybody too much, but feel like, is this space, is my environment making me feel like I want to feel?
Right, exactly. Great question.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.